Many people are concerned with what school is going to look like in the fall, and with good reason. Different states have different outlooks, but the general consensus is that a lot of people are going to be doing distance, online learning, or homeschooling. And I just want to tell you about the difference between those two things to start off. Distance online learning is when the school is going to be providing the curriculum, providing the instruction, and the parent just sort of guides the child along the way and helps them to be accountable for what they're doing. Versus homeschooling, which is the parent provides the curriculum, the parent provides the instruction, and the parent provides the individualized learning experience for their child. So whatever path you're going to go down, the most important thing is that you are an active participant in your child's education. And I know you probably have a ton of questions like, homeschooling seems so difficult. I don't even know what I'm supposed to do. How do I do this? Or, I don't have the patience to homeschool. I hear that one all the time. I don't have the patience to homeschool. How can I possibly homeschool my children? And lastly, what about if you work? How are you supposed to work and homeschool your children? Well, let's start off with the simplest one. Why does homeschooling seem difficult? Well, anytime you start anything new, it's going to seem difficult. No one ever begins as an expert. There's always a learning curve. In order to get good at anything, it takes practice. So I promise you though, even though the first 3 weeks are going to seem pretty difficult, you will get through it. You will channel your inner Zen. You will find your patience. And that brings me to the second point. I am not a very patient person. In fact, I usually describe my tolerance level at ground zero. So when a parent says to me that they don't have the patience to homeschool, I completely get it. I was there. I want you to think about all the times that your patience was tested as a parent. Like, what about the first 3 months that your child was alive and you didn't sleep? Or potty training. That definitely tests someone's patience. What about the time that your child cut his hair, or her hair, even worse, right before class pictures, or the time that they threw up in your bed, or in the car on a road trip? There are so many instances that you can lose your patience with children. I mean, what about trying to get them to put on their shoes for like the 100th time, or do their homework, or stop bickering between each other? These things require tons of patience, and homeschooling is absolutely no exception to that. However, if you have the patience to parent, and I know you do, then you definitely have the patience to homeschool. Now consider this. The very exact society that tells you that you do not have the patience to homeschool your child apparently expects teachers to be able to school or educate 25 to 30 kids at a time. Does that make sense? I know, yes, teachers are saints, absolutely, but are they magical? Did they somehow get your patience powers? No, it is something that is a skill that is learned, and you can do it too. So now you know you're going to find your patience, but what are you supposed to do if you work? How do you homeschool? Working outside of the home is very difficult when it comes time to homeschooling your children. There is no doubt about that. And the best options for that are working part-time, or having older kids that are a little bit more self-sufficient during the day, or perhaps you have a partner that's helping you, or a grandparent that's stepping in to help with the homeschooling duties. But these solutions are all worth looking into. But what else can you do? No matter what the situation is, you can make it work. And I have put together some of my best tips that both working and stay-at-home parents can use to make their homeschooling experience go a whole lot smoother. My first suggestion is to rely on the village. One of the hottest topics right now is microschooling or pod schooling, and that is getting a lot of attention. And the reason is a whole bunch of families get together, between 5 and 10 families, and they share in the homeschooling duties, or they contribute funds and get tutors, but they tutor a whole bunch of kids. Another similar term that we use in the homeschooling community is co-ops. But look into all of them, because it is definitely a solution for working parents to create some kid-free time that you can use for long stretches of focused work. My next tip is what I call divide and conquer. If you share parenting and homeschooling responsibilities with a spouse or a partner, split the day up. One can work while the other homeschools, and while you're at it, divide up all the chores too. And not just divide them up between you and your partner, divide them up between you and your children. They should be chipping in as well and freeing your time up for other things. My next suggestion is to work unconventional hours if you can. If you're able to get your work done in the morning and then homeschool during the day, or work at night and homeschool during the day, that's great. But you don't necessarily have to homeschool your kids during 8 to 5 hours. You can homeschool them at night. You can homeschool them on the weekends. The great thing about homeschooling is that it's flexible, and you can do it according to your schedule. I think a misconception is that we need to to homeschool our kids for 8 hours a day. That is not true. In fact, it's the furthest thing from the truth. Kindergartners, first graders, they need like an hour a day of homeschooling. It increases by age, so once your kid gets up to high school, you need at least 6 hours a day, but we do not have to be homeschooling our kids all day long. So when you're thinking about the time that it's going to take to homeschool your children, consider that. I mean, much of the day at traditional schools are filled with transitions from class to class, the time it takes a teacher to actually begin working in the classroom and the kids to all settle down, assemblies, recess, gym, lunch, and other interruptions during the day like fire drills and announcements. And your 8-hour day that your kid has been in school has just been reduced considerably. The most important tip that I can give you is to be involved in your children's education. Do status checks throughout the day. Make sure that your children are not falling behind in anything, and even more importantly, that they're being challenged in areas. And you want to be able to provide resources for your children when the need arises. So if they need some help someplace, or they need to find out more information about something that's going to make it a better learning experience for them, you're making sure that you're on top of that. Something else really important is to always expect the unexpected. There are going to be things that happen all day long, whether your Wi-Fi goes down, the printer breaks, the cat runs away, somebody spills a gallon of milk all over the floor, you realize you're out of wine, all in the same day. And you need to anticipate it, you need to roll with it. This is life, but the great part about it is that children learn from life. These are life experiences, and what they're going to gain from all of those different things happening and them having to deal with them alongside you is far more valuable than they will ever receive from a textbook or a Zoom classroom. Okay, this tip is really important. You need to have a safe space. And by safe space, I mean a bathroom or closet that you can lock yourself into when you have to finish an email or you need to make a phone call and you can't listen to mommy, mom. Have a safe space, a place to run away and escape, even just when you need a breather. This tip is going to go a long way in the life skills area. Teach kids how to help themselves. So maybe you want to set the day up by having all the snacks ready in a specific snack time, so that way your children can help themselves and don't need to bother you when they're hungry. The same thing goes for lunches. Maybe you can prepare them the day before and they can self-serve themselves lunch in the afternoon. Another thing to do is to keep all of their art supplies at the ready for them, the things that you want them to be able to use, the things that you want them to be able to access during the day. Have them ready for them so they don't need to disturb you to get something. You really just want to encourage children to help themselves, to be able to fix problems, to be able to figure out things and situations on their own without having to ask for your assistance. Next tip, learn the art of communication. I love agendas, charts, calendars, reminder lists. These are all great things to make sure we are always all on the same page. And every morning or night, depending on how the day is going, I make sure we discuss the upcoming day's plans so that way everyone's aware of their responsibilities and my expectations. I let my kids know the schedule and approximately what time I'm going to be working with them one-on-one, and also what tasks are expected to be done quietly and independently. Something really important is setting boundaries. You need to be clear with your children about when you're working and when you're not, and younger children might need a clearer explanation of this and maybe need some visual cues in order to understand not to bother you at certain times. So whether that's a note on the door like mom's at work, dad's at work, or there's some sort of hat that you wear that says like this is the time that I'm doing work, don't bother me, or if you maybe have a timer for them that they can set the timer, okay, I'm going to be working for an hour, set the timer, and then we're going to have time together after that. It's also really good to have filler like puzzles, workbooks, educational videos, things like that for times that your kids can't continue on without your help, but you aren't available to help them right that second. I think a really good tip is work smarter, not harder. Do your very best to be organized and efficient. To-do lists are magical. Minimize the distractions around you whenever possible, and it's not always possible, I understand. A great tip is to plan time buffers around work and school so you aren't rushing from one thing to the next. Organize your computer. I think that's key, especially if you're using the same computer for work as you are going to be using for school, because I know the desktop can get crazy messy with tons of different files and folders and things all over, and it can really grow pretty fast. So a good thing to do is to make sure that you're on top of that. I think a great thing to take away from this homeschooling is that you understand that every moment can be a learning moment with your child, and not just for your child, but for you too. You will be amazed at the things that you learn. You'll be so surprised at what comes into your head and the things that you never knew, and just what makes you even more well-rounded and have more things to talk about. Another great thing is to take field trips whenever you can to museums, state parks, nature centers, historic sites, even places like the botanical gardens, to get real life enriching experiences to layer on to the homeschool experience. I know many people are concerned about socialization. I really want you not to worry about it. That's one of the biggest misconceptions of homeschooling. I promise the kids are going to be fine, even those parents with social butterfly children. There wasn't much socializing going on in the schools anyway, to be honest with you. All of the socialization occurred after school, and that can still happen. Your kids can still get together and have fun, and schooling from home is never going to change that. Lastly, don't forget about self-care. Whatever it is that you enjoy doing, make sure you still do it. Take a little time for yourself every day, even if it's 5 minutes. And no, food shopping without the children does not count. My name is Laura Cronin. Thank you so much for watching. I hope that my tips give you the confidence to homeschool this fall and make things just a little bit easier for you. And lastly, I just want to say to really enjoy this time with your family. When you look back, you're really going to appreciate having this time together. It really is a bonding experience, and it's something that is just unprecedented, that we have the ability to sort of create whatever we want here right now, and I wish you the best of luck.